Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we're going to be talking about Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles. We just did an Eagles team mock draft yesterday on the channel. There will be a card here for that. And now, talking about the Eagles a little bit more today, it's going to be focused on their quarterback, Carson Wentz. It sounds like the Eagles are getting trade calls, according to Ian Rappaport, someone who's very, very solid with his information that he gives out. And Philly doesn't plan to deal him, according to Rappaport, but they aren't hanging up the phone. That is a really big deal. That means they are actually interested in possibly trading Carson Wentz for the right package. So today, we're going to be looking at what teams could be interested in Carson Wentz, where I ultimately think he'll end up playing next season, and what a trade could look like for Carson Wentz, what the package would be to bring Carson Wentz in to a new situation. Those are all things that are very interesting to me, so I hope you guys really do enjoy the video. If you do, make sure you smash that like button. So let's talk about Carson Wentz here for a quick minute. He had a really down year this year, 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 2,500 yards, I believe, passing the football. Really poor passer rating this year. And he's 28 years old. It's not like he's a young guy anymore. This is the heart of his career. This is his prime. He needs to be performing at a higher level than he did this year. It's obvious why the Eagles benched him. He was not playing up to standards. Now, is Jalen Hurts better than him? I honestly do not believe that he is. But at the same time, the Eagles have to figure out that QB situation. Right now, they have two QBs, and the old adage is when you have two QBs, that probably means you don't have one QB. And I really, really do subscribe to that. I believe that's a very, very accurate saying in a lot of different ways. I think when you have a QB controversy, it's because, you don't really have that true number one guy. The same was true for Mark Sanchez and Tim Tebow with the New York Jets. Also, Mark Sanchez and Geno Smith a few years later. And it's just that's played out so many times in the NFL. There's been times where a guy's coming in to compete, and usually that means you don't really have a true guy. Think about when the Tennessee Titans traded for Ryan Tannehill. It's not because they wanted a backup that's going to be a good backup. It's because they wanted someone who's going to compete with Marcus Mariota, and he ended up ousting Marcus Mariota. Obviously, he's played very well there in Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill has. And that just goes to show how unconfident they were with Marcus Mariota at QB. I think the Eagles are in a similar situation here with Wentz and Hurts. They wouldn't have taken Hurts had they trusted Wentz. Think about the Green Bay Packers. They've rolled with Aaron Rodgers so many years. Sure, they've looked at backups, and now they bring in Jordan Love. But Aaron Rodgers is getting up there in age and gives Love a chance to develop behind him. That is a much different situation than drafting a QB behind Carson Wentz at the time, who is 27, now is 28 years old. That is a way different situation. I don't think the Eagles management is comfortable with Carson Wentz, and I think they're going to look to move on from him, actually. I think the fact that they're saying that they don't plan on dealing him is trying to drive up his price just a little bit, maybe increase the value a hair. So who are some teams that could be interested in Carson Wentz? And I look at this as a really good opportunity for Carson Wentz if he could land with the Indianapolis Colts. They have the best infrastructure in the NFL for a QB right now. They don't have that QB in place. Could Jacoby Brissett be back next year? Possibly. Could he be their starter? I very likely could see that being the case. They also did add some wide receiver talent last year with Michael Pittman in the draft. They need to add a little bit more, but I think Carson Wentz coming in could make a lot of sense, especially if they are able to keep that first-round pick. Now for Carson Wentz, I think the packages are probably going to look at a second-round pick and maybe a day 3 pick, like round 4 or 5. That's kind of what I see for him. I don't see any way that he gets traded for a first-round pick, being 28 years old, having a huge cap number. And to be honest, the second and a fourth seems a little high to me too. I think it's possibly more so going to be a third and a fourth or a second and a sixth type of deal. That's kind of what I'm looking at here. And I think the Colts would be willing to roll that because they have the salary cap space to bring in Wentz. They could also bring in more talent in free agency if they chose to. And then they would be able to keep their first-round pick, add an offensive tackle, give them some long-term flexibility there at that salary cap threshold number 2 for the tackle position. I think that's a very smart move for the Indianapolis Colts. Another team that I think could look into making a move for Carson Wentz could be the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're flying under the radar a little bit when it comes to the whole QB situation. They're at pick 4. I really don't know who they're going to target at pick 4. It could be a young QB. Why not buy low on Carson Wentz? I know the salary cap number makes it difficult, but maybe you work out a 3-team deal where you move Matt Ryan somewhere else, say Chicago, possibly Las Vegas. Those are 2 spots where Matt Ryan could possibly have some interest from teams, and I think that it would make sense to really try and upgrade upgrade your draft selections by moving Matt Ryan, getting a higher pick than you're going to have to give up for Carson Wentz. And you're taking a really high reward, low risk buy here on Carson Wentz, bringing him in after what has been his worst year in the NFL. Remember, this guy was almost an MVP at one point in his career. If he had not torn his ACL that year, the year that Nick Foles won the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's very likely he would have won the MVP instead of Tom Brady that season. I think that Carson Wentz is a really, really good low risk, high reward option at this point on the market. Another team that could be really interested in making a move for Carson Wentz, I could see being the Washington football team. However, I don't think that this ever gets done. I don't think the Eagles want to trade Carson Wentz in the division. I think they would really prefer to send him to the AFC. Another NFC team that would be possibly interested in Carson Wentz is the Carolina Panthers. I don't really know what that package would look like, though. If they're willing to give up their second round pick, remember that's around pick 37, 38. I don't think they're going to want to be moving that pick for Carson Wentz, but I think that's kind of where Philly would be aiming to get, is one of those higher end second round picks for the QB that they ultimately traded up for, spent a ton to get, and just hasn't really worked out in the last couple of years. Matthew Stafford was a big part of this trade too, obviously, because he kind of set what the market looks like. Remember, he got 2 firsts, Jared Goff, and a third to get off of Jared Goff's contract. Maybe teams are looking at Carson Wentz as a poison pill contract. I don't really know, though. I don't think that they should be looking at that in that way. There's a lot of dead money for the Eagles here. That's why the Eagles aren't going to be super quick to trade him either, is they need to get a good package that they feel like is going to help them really improve their team. Otherwise, there's no point in taking in that dead money when Carson Wentz could still be their starter next season. And one other team that I would like to mention is the Chicago Bears. I had mentioned them about Matt Ryan. I think Carson Wentz is a fit there as well. They need to get a quarterback. Mitch Trubisky is not the guy. Nick Foles is not the guy. We've seen them be aggressive via trade in the last couple of years. When they went out to get Nick Foles, they also were aggressive moving up to get Mitch Trubisky. Ownership there, management wants to get that QB number 1 spot filled in. Carson Wentz has the potential to be a top 15 QB in the NFL when he's healthy, when he's playing right. A big part of that would maybe be Allen Robinson returning to the Bears. It doesn't seem likely at this point. But if Carson Wentz goes somewhere like Chicago, you're going to want to have a number 1 wide receiver who can create separation, catch the ball consistently, something the Philadelphia Eagles really have not had in recent years. And that's part of the struggle there for Carson Wentz. There's a reason we keep mocking Philadelphia wide receivers. There's a reason. They need wideouts bad. They need tight ends bad. They need guys who can catch the ball. Zach Ertz is probably on his way out. They've got a whole influx of issues right now. I think for the Eagles, it would be the best case to move on from Carson Wentz, maybe get a second round pick back or a third and say a fourth. Just try and build up some of that asset. They need linebackers. They need cornerbacks. They need a safety. They need some offensive line help moving forward for the future. They could also use a QB. Obviously, that comes without saying, but that's a hard situation. And the receiving room, as I mentioned earlier, those are all big needs. I don't think the Denver Broncos are going to be interested in Carson Wentz. I think that they're going to give Drew Lock 1 more year to kind of see what he's about. Same with the New York Jets. I don't see them making a move for Carson Wentz. One other team, and this is the final team I want to mention here, would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that it's very possible that they would be motivated to make a deal for Carson Wentz. Ben Roethlisberger has a $41 million cap hit this year. And Art Rooney II said if Roethlisberger wants to be a Steeler this year, he's going to have to come down from that number. I don't know if the two sides get it done. Carson Wentz would be the long-term option behind that. Also, you could watch for Sam Darnold maybe in a trade with the New York Jets to Pittsburgh. That would keep Wentz in Pennsylvania. Wentzylvania would still stay a thing if he goes to Pittsburgh. I'm not sure if I see that getting done, though. That'll be something to monitor. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know down in the comments below who you think will trade for Carson Wentz and what his trade value is. I'd love to hear it. And we'll catch you guys in the very next video.